Blog Talk Radio.
The girl George and the Dragons radio show. Today we're going to take you back in my little time machine way back to 1964, back to Oregon, and back to the Magic Bus when Ken Kesey and Ken Babbs and Neal Cassady painted up a bus and headed out to New York or somewhere on acid. And today we have one of the guys that was on that bus. We have the captain, Ken Babbs. Hi. Hi, Babbs. What you doing?
Hi. Hey, what am I doing or how am I doing?
How are you doing? What you doing? Where you at? You're in Oregon, right?
Yes, I am. I'm in Eugene right now. I don't live in Eugene. I live 20 miles east in the foothills of the Cascades. But every Sunday I drive into Eugene and do my food shopping for the house for the week. I just got done, so I pulled off here on a nice sunny side street so I could give a call into your radio show.
So how did that bus come about? How did you guys end up with a bus?
Well, it was 1964, and Kesey had just finished writing and getting published his great masterpiece, Sometimes a Great Notion. And there was going to be a publication party in New York City in the summer of '64. So a bunch of us decided to go there with him because also the World's Fair was in New York. We wanted to see that. And there were so many of us that we couldn't fit into the station wagon, so Kesey bought a converted school bus up in San Francisco that had been owned by a Catholic family, and it had 6 bunks in the back, and it had a little dining area, and it had a kitchen. And they had outgrown it, you know, being Catholics and all. So Kesey bought it and brought it down to La Honda where he lived in the Redwoods there on the crest between Palo Alto and the ocean, and began to get it ready for the trip, and involved painting it all up in beautiful colors with lots of people participating, particularly Roy Seaburn, who was a real artist, and who also was the one who named the bus Further. He painted the sign on the front, Further, F-U-R-T-H-E-R, because he said this is a word that will get you to your destination without breakdowns or any kinds of troubles. I said, you mean the cops? He says, well, I can't guarantee that. And so also, at the time, Kesey had finished writing, he'd written 2 books, I had written 1 book, and we were sick to death of typing, you know, and in those days you had to retype everything if you made any changes. So we commenced to getting high and lying on the floor at night and taping whole novels into a tape recorder and having a good time doing it, but the question is, was it any good? So it entails doing this kind of thing. You got to spend the next day listening to it. And we determined that with our creative abilities and the knowledge we had already of doing storytelling through books, that, yeah, we had something going here. And the next thing you know, George Walker, one of our cohorts, brought a 16-millimeter movie camera down, and we got up off the floor and started acting out parts and making them up as we went along. And suddenly we realized, hey, we're movie makers. So with this bus getting outfitted, we decided we'd shoot this movie across the country and back. And when we got done, we'd edit it, and it would come out on the big screen, and it would be like nothing ever seen before in movies because it would mean this bus, unknown bus, all wildly painted, and this group, the Merry Band of Pranksters, and we were a band, you know, played instruments and all, Our form of music was incomprehensible to most people, but it was a form of nonverbal communication where we all had to listen to and talk to each other through our instruments. So anyway, the bus would be going along, and we'd be doing all kinds of stuff, and the sound system had microphones everywhere, speakers on top of the bus and inside the bus, and one with the driver. And we would they would be shooting that and movie making, and then we'd pull into town and maybe get gas or rat burgers or something. And kids would really start flocking to the bus because they recognized that was a converted school bus. And then other people would be there. And today, 50 years later, you can't go to a 7-Eleven store without there being some drama going on in the parking lot. Well, then there was a drama would form around the bus, and so we'd be out playing our instruments and filming and shooting. And the thing that made this movie different from anything else is that we had been taking LSD, and we'd all be high and making the movie and grooving with the people. And it was a wonderful thing because pretty soon we were all friends and laughing and carrying on. And then it was, hi-ho, Silver, board, Kesey, we'd yell, and we'd all pile into the bus and drive off to the next one. And so the movie would be a series of the bus driving and these stops.
So was Mountain Girl on the bus too?
No, she didn't come around until after the bus trip. She was an 18-year-old girl from, the Midwest or the back east or somewhere, and was in California. I think she had been working at Stanford University doing something and lost her job and caught a ride with Neal Cassady up to the La Honda where the bus was and everything. And so that's when we first met her.
And then she ended up with Kesey, didn't have a baby or something?
Yes, they did. Sunshine Kesey. She was born in Mexico when we were down there in '66 for 6 months when Kesey was running away from his jail sentence.
And then she ended up with Jerry Garcia, right?
Yes, she did, because when we all came back from Mexico and she got hooked up there on the Haight with Grateful Dead and then with Jerry, and then they got married.
Yeah, they were together a long time. Okay, how about Neal Cassady? How did you end up with Neal Cassady?
Well, Neal Cassady we all knew about because of Jack Kerouac's book on the Road, which came out in 1957, which was the year Kesey and I both graduated from college. And it was a big influence on us with its free-form jazz bop style and terrific writer and everything. And it had kind of released novel writing from ordinary plot structure. And as Kerouac said himself, the new form of writing is confessional, which is different from the set piece of beginning, middle, and end. And that was a big influence on us. And so, of course, the leading character in the book was Dean Moriarty, which was Neal Cassady, and he, in about, I don't know when, and somewhere maybe before the 60s, he got busted for 2 joints and did 2 years in San Quentin. And when he got out, he was there in the Bay Area because his wife lived there and his kids. And so he knew about Kesey. So one afternoon, he drove up to Kesey's, and Kesey lived on Prairie Lane and right by across the street from the Stanford Golf Course. And he drove in his Jeepster, and kabam, the rear end went out. And he spent the whole afternoon under working on the rear end, talking all the time, going wrong this curve, set up for that, unless you got a flat or suspension change. Either way, you know what it amounted to? I found out you could throw in a reverse anything under 10 miles an hour. Oh, gosh, good old granny. Well, going wrong this curve, set up for that. So that's how we got to know Cassady. So anyway, the day we were getting ready to leave in the bus, Kesey sent Ron Bevert, the Hassler, down to Kepler's bookstore in Palo Alto to look for Cassady, who had been hanging around there during the day. And so after a while, we were all there in La Honda. It was getting toward dusk, and here came this car around the curve there towards the bridge. Car, bang, and out of the back end of the car, the muffler was dragging, big sparks flying, and over the bridge he came, and the railroad was blaring. I found my little bottle of love potion number 9. He hops out, he takes a pack of cigarettes, turns it upside down and opens it upside down. Surprised even me. And I came over to Kesey and he says, I hear you're going to New York and going to make a movie and all, and you need a driver. And Kesey said, yes. He says, we want you to drive and come along. And Neal said, what? You mean I'm going to be a movie star in my later years, my declining years? And Kesey said, there's nothing I would rather do for you. And so they talked it over, and Neal said, well, and then what? And when we get done, what then? He says, well, we come back and edit it, and then it goes out in the theaters. And then Cassady says, well, then what? He says, that's the end? He says, no. Kesey says, that's just the beginning. And Cassady says, I'm feeling better, doctor. And Kesey says, why don't you then take some of this stuff that we've all been nibbling on, and we'll get ready to go. And so he, sure enough, was the driver, and sure enough was, I think, the star of the movie.
Well, he seemed to be the star of everything. He was in all those books of Kerouac, and I even heard recently that Kerouac got his style of writing from Cassady, from the letters that Cassady was writing, because Cassady would just go on and on, all that speed,
Right, This is a wonderful thing that just happened recently, is that it's called the famous Joan Anderson letter, all single spaced, I don't know how many, 40,000 words or something like that. And it was the thing that tripped Kerouac into writing no longer in the ordinary novel style, but doing this on the road style, where he put a long manuscript paper in the typewriter and just kept typing until he was done. And this thing disappeared. What happened was Kerouac gave it to Ginsberg to read, and Ginsberg thought it was so good, he sent it out here in San Francisco to a small publisher to get it published, and nobody ever heard from it. And somebody said, well, that guy gave it to this guy, Gert Stern, who had a boat in Sausalito we lived on, and that it fell over the side. Well, it turns out none of that was true. And Gert Stern, when this thing happened, was very adamant about that never happened. And what really happened was the guy at the publishing place didn't want to publish it, and he just put it aside. And then when he closed down the magazine, he pushed all the manuscripts that hadn't been published into a trash can. And another guy who shared the space with him, a photographer, thought, hey, wait a minute, these things are too good to throw away. And he got them all out of there, and he had them in his house. And I think he died, and his daughter was going through his stuff, and she found the letter. And right away it was, oh, God, it's wonderful. But now what's happened is that there's a fight going on between the Cassady heirs, the Kerouac heirs, and the lady that owns the letter over whose it actually is. And I say, forget all that. Come on, publish that thing. We want to read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
What's all these Greg kids said, oh, give me your money. Fuck them. You make your own fucking money.
Yeah, work that out on your own. But meanwhile, let us read that letter.
Yeah. I heard that even Ginsberg wrote this.
Oh, yeah, that's his
You're right, Al. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, he did the same thing with that poem to poetry that Kerouac did the novel writing with On the Road. There was a scene in San Francisco there, down there on North Beach, where this hall, and he got up and he was going to read, and Kerouac was there, running up and down the aisles, yelling and coming on and passing around. He had a gallon of Burgundy wine, passing that out and everything. It was a huge event. And Hal and the authorities, I guess old Ferlinghetti published it, and they shut it down and tried to get it, censored and not allowed because it was too awful. But of course, the court let it go. And so, at that time in American literature, things weren't allowed, like Ulysses and by James Joyce and what's the name of the guy, Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn.
Naked Lunch.
And Naked Lunch, yeah, that's right, yeah.
They've renamed Enrico's Naked Lunch. Did you know that? Enrico's, that restaurant we used to all hang out on Broadway and North Beach, the outdoor one. It's now called the Naked Lunch.
Well, everybody's capitalizing on the beach.
Yeah, and a couple doors down, they've got the Bohemia Museum, the Beatnik Museum.
Yeah, the
got a
Beat
bunch
Museum.
of stuff like Neal Cassady and the bus trip and stuff.
Yeah, have you ever been there?
Yeah.
To the
of
Beat
course.
Museum? Yeah, that's really neat. I like it a lot.
I live in Berkeley. So
yeah, I know you do.
This is my home.
Well, I
This
didn't
is
know
my
if you
home
went across
area
the bridge.
here.
I didn't know if you went across the bridge or not.
Oh, I do occasionally. I used to play over there all the time. I played in the coffee gallery for years, which is where Kerouac and them people used to do their stuff there. So that's
right.
my stomping grounds is North Beach.
Yeah, I
know
North
all
Beach.
about them. So what did you guys think when the Beatles copied you as Magical Mystery Tour and went on that stupid bus trip and didn't even paint the bus? They should have painted the bus at least.
Well, what did we think of it? Well, what can you think other than that's the Beatles? Anything they do is great. Go for it. I mean, just to do that sort of thing and having us have done the same thing was a good link, a good connection. Yeah, it was great.
Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, and Kesey, went there to England one time right around Christmas and met all the Beatles and got to know them.
Oh, great. How cool. So he took the bus over to England?
Well, not that time, no. He just went with himself. Actually, he went with a bunch of Hells Angels because they had some meeting they were having with the London Hells Angels. And it almost got into a fight. And it was Christmas Eve. And immediately, I don't know what started it, but the San Francisco Hells Angels went to one side of the hall and the London Angels on the other side, and they were about ready to get on. And here through the door came John Lennon in the Santa Claus suit. I say now, what's going on here? And cooled the whole thing out.
So did you get to meet John Lennon too?
No, I didn't go on that trip.
Oh, too bad. I love John.
I know. I really kicked myself in the ass, but something happened. I was supposed to go, but I was somewhere in Ohio or somewhere, and the tickets didn't come through or something.
Okay, so when you were on that original bus trip, when you got to New York, what happened there? Did you go see Kerouac and all of those people? Well,
this was a wonderful thing that happened that we never anticipated because we thought we'd just be there in New York for the party, the publication party, and also the World's Fair. But we had a friend from California who had a cousin that had an apartment there in New York, right in Manhattan. And she was gone for a while to England or somewhere, so we got to park the bus right in front of the apartment house and use her apartment as our headquarters when we were in New York. And I don't know if it was the first night or the second night, Cassady went out and he had Ginsberg's on it, called him, and then they got together with Peter Orlovsky and Peter's brother Julius, who had been in the nut house for 14 years and just got out that day. And then they called Kerouac, and they went over to where he lived on Long Island or somewhere and brought him to the apartment. And we're all in there, except for Julius. He stayed on the bus. He loved that bus. He could not believe this was home to him. And so we had quite an evening there of us cavorting all around and showing off to Kerouac all of our stuff, playing instruments and making up crazy antic dramas and doing all that. And he just sat there. He would nurse the Budweiser, and you could tell looking at him he was tired, and he'd been through so much, as being the beat kind of not the spokesman, but I'd say the whipping boy really by the media. There was a thing, where time and life came down on all the beats. They saw them as a real threat to America, and that they had to be squelched, and so that whole beatnik thing started, and the whole image of them just being high and loose and making love in big mobs on the hardwood floors of tenement slums, that kind of thing. And they didn't realize, because they didn't realize that in America, it's the spirit. The American spirit is what is the greatest value, has the most value, and it's worth more than anything. And after World War II, the spirit was really low after the carnage of World War II. We can't imagine now what it was like. I mean, the stuff that's going on now is bad enough, but it wasn't anything like it was then. And so the beats out of this swamp, this mire of downness, rose up and rose to the heights as high as they could get with freedom of expression in all forms, dance, music, art, literature, whatever, and they did something that still resonates in this country. So when we met these guys, I mean, it was just really, really, really a huge honor to us. And at the same time, I didn't think about it till later. What really happened was these guys, the Beat generation was on the way out, and a new generation was starting. And we, for some reason, had the torch passed to us and carried it. And Cassady was the real link, between the two. He was the bridge, and carried it into the psychedelic revolution, which also got trashed by the mainline media for the same reason. They thought this was a big threat to the country. But, the hippies, you could not put them down because they were peace-loving people. And so all that going on in the 60s, coming to a head, and let's face it, the thing that we had going for us was LSD. Well, LSD was like a wave that came up and hit the whole country, and we didn't create the wave, the pranksters. We were riding the wave right on the crest along with lots and lots of other people, and that wave kept going after we slipped off into the trough, and all the way, Kesey said in 1970, it's almost to Kansas now. And so today that wave is... and today that wave is all over the world. The whole world is psychedelicized now. I mean, you don't have to.
Yeah, they like to say that the hippies are dead, but the hippies are never going to die. It's always going to come back up again. The underground's always going to raise its ugly little head up for the cement and break through and break open the world again, because it's there and they ain't going to kill it. There's no way to kill it. It's the heartbeat of the world, of the people.
Yeah, there's another wave coming. We don't know what it is or how it'll take shape, but it's coming for sure. Because it always happens when we're really down, like these times now, people are down.
Yeah, music and art, you can't kill it. It's there. It's there. So how old are you now, Babbs?
Well, I'm 79.
Wow.
I'm in the last year.
You're going to make it to 100, huh?
Well, I hope so. Yeah, it's the last year of being a septuagenarian. Next year I'll be an octogenarian.
Cool. I'm 70 and still out there singing and kicking and doing whatever, screaming and yelling a lot.
Well, sure. That's what keeps you going. That's what keeps you young, is to do that. Keeps the spirit alive.
You got to keep on trucking. So the bus came out again this year or last year and made the trip again. They put a new bus out there.
Well, the old bus, the original bus, further, its last big trip was to Woodstock in 1969. And when it came back, it didn't go out again. In fact, Kesey and the rest of us, we towed it into the swamp behind Kesey's house and left it there to rust in peace. But I don't know when it was, 74 or something like that, there was a big book carnival or get-together in L.A., the big one that they have every year, the National Book Convention. And so Kesey had a book coming out, I think it's called The Further Inquiry, and so he saw this bus that was another International Harvester, but it was a 47. The original was a 39. This was a 47, and it was shorter, but the nice thing about it was taller. I could stand up in that, whereas that first bus, I couldn't stand up in it. Hardly anybody could, so we were always bunched over and walking around in that thing. So he bought that and brought that to his house in Pleasant Hill, and his farm, and got the artists out and started painting on it. And one of the artists was Linda Lanker, the wife of Brian Lanker, Pulitzer Prize-winning photographer, and she's just a fantastic artist in oils, and she painted on the side of the bus David reaching his hand out and touching the finger of God, which, is a famous scene in Italy somewhere. And I don't know who painted it. But anyway, and so this new bus was really grooved out, and with another sound system. In fact, the Grateful Dead donated the money for the sound system. with the same deal, top to bottom, communication and speakers everywhere. And so we used that all the time up until Kesey died. We even took that to England. He had written a musical play called Where's Merlin? And we took the bus, it went all across on a container ship to England, and we drove it all around the British Isles one summer, in '99. And well, of course, Kesey died in 2001, and everything kind of went stagnant for a while, but Zane, his son, kind of kept things going through his website, selling books and all kinds of stuff. But then he started taking the bus out, too, to festivals and stuff. And then he's been grooving that bus even better. Now it has LED lights on it, down at the bottom and on the top, and the kind that go up along the side and, are moving. And then the inside of the bus is all just really beautiful. And completely decked out again and everything, and he decided, I think it was, probably in 2013, he'd take it out in 2014, the 50th anniversary of the 64 bus trip. And he did it. He was gone, I don't know, like 4 months. Put something like 21,000 miles on the bus and never broke down once. But he did a wonderful thing. He used social media to go out ahead of himself and tell people where to let him know what was going on, what festivals they were, and to set things up for the bus. And he went from place to place like that, all over. And a lot of places where we went to in the the original bus, like the World's Fair site, where the Unisphere that they built for that is still there.
Well, that's great. So it was great talking to you. They can find you on Facebook, and I've got to end now. It was great talking to you. I love you, Babbs. This is the Girl George and the Dragons radio show saying, see you later.
Okay, and also remember I'm on the web through skypilotclub.com. And also, I'm working on a book called Cronies, which is all about the adventures I had with Kesey and the Pranksters and our friends.
Okay. We'll check all that stuff out.
Okay.
Love you, baby.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Bye, everybody.
Right.